Good morning. Hello, everyone. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives. It's Friday morning, January 6th of 2023, and a couple minutes after 11 a.m. here on the East Coast as we broadcast on YouTube and also on Facebook. Welcome, everyone. And to those of you watching the stream after the live time, it will be a recording for you, but thank you for watching and welcome. I hope you enjoy the show. We are basically going by the seat of our pants at these chats. I like to see what's on your mind and invite your questions and comments in the chat room. And I'll keep an eye on it. So if any of you decide to be trolls, you won't last very long because we're very, very active troll squashers around here. Anyway, I see a couple of good friends. Robert and Corky are here. And let's look at the first question. Robert DeCesaris. No, I do not know that author, Robert. David, good morning. Other David, good morning to you. And thanks for being here. Um, Yesterday on my Patreon, and I have not done much on my Patreon in about a year. I kind of quit being active on Patreon a year or so ago when things just were way up in the air as to who was producing and who was doing what, and I was trying to support other folks' efforts, so I kind of let mine slack. And but with drummer retiring and our income kind of depending upon, at least in part, on what we do here at the channel, I am uh, making a big effort to activate our Patreon and got a new Patreon last week. Thank you, everyone who has joined us. It's Patreon/John O'Loughlin is the place to find it. There's a button for it over on screamingospreys.com. And yeah, I got to put a button on my information down at the bottom here below the show. But anyway, that's just coming up. Drummer's going to be doing a lot of producing type work with us, and she's already quite skilled at that. We just put together in two parts all of the little clips I made in Bradenton, Florida, with the author Ed Haslam, whose very, very important book, Dr. Mary's Monkey, is just becoming more and more important as we delve into the actual virus/vaccine game, whatever you want to call it, science. Let's call it the science. And we're going to keep on studying the science. And good morning to Laura and end of days, Miss Hunt. Thank you for joining us. And those of you who are joining without signing in at the chat room, welcome to you as well. Yeah, Dr. Mary's Monkey is a very, very important book. Did just reading from the back, did inoculating millions of trusting school children with polio vaccines contaminated by monkey viruses trigger an epidemic of soft tissue cancers? Well, I would say yes, especially since I got one. I got a soft tissue cancer. It was prostate cancer. Came along pretty much as predicted by Ed Haslam's book. Um, Here's a page here that has one of the charts he made about the cancer epidemic, um, and the kinds of cancer that are epidemic. In 1973, no, percent increase from 1973. Anyway, it's skin cancer, lymphoma, prostate cancer, and breast cancer. There is no accepted explanation for what caused this. Each of the four soft tissue cancers showed a dramatic increase in its incidence rate at the same time. I don't know how they were able to predict that cancer would kick in, decades after an injection of something, but they did, and it did. Pretty interesting. It's a tragedy that's going on all over the place now. I noticed that one of the representatives announced recently that, I mean, yesterday, that they had prostate cancer and were going to have surgery. I think it was a Pennsylvania uh, congressman, and it's a shame. Cancer is happening everywhere. I think I just read that Jamie Raskin, the representative from Montgomery County, and very vociferous opponent of President Trump, um, was diagnosed recently. And it's absolutely horrible that this is happening. And does there come a time when we start to think, maybe there's been forces behind the scenes ever since before World War II that have been trying to generate death, just deadly things in our air, in our water, in our food, and now in our blood supply. So if you were running an elite empire, you know, for, you're the current custodian of a 1,000-year-old empire, for instance, and your main concern has always been the people, the common people, that there's so many of them, and one day, if they ever get smart, there's enough of them that they could take you down. And it just eats at your mind. I understand the Rockefellers were paranoid about, the common people. Certainly, that's the imperial idea, is that if you can't control them, maybe you should get rid of them. And is there an empire still behind the scenes that's manipulating our lives to this time, to this day? And maybe they decided that the best way to cull the population would be to poison the blood supply of the world, through institutions that look like they're, you know, all beneficial, like the Red Cross and AMA, all of the Rockefeller medicine institutions and doctors. You know, if you were able to poison the whole world's blood supply, and then the only ones that could survive would be the ones you gave the medicine to. And that gets me back to, what I've been studying with hepatitis B. And my last show was on hepatitis B, and the question that I raised was my father, was McDuff a guinea pig for the Hep B vaccine? And the more I look at it, the more I think he was. He was indeed. Well, I'm not going to try to explore that in depth right now because I'm still researching. But another thing that I'm researching besides Hep B is the theory put forth in this book, which I just got yesterday. It's a short book, and I'm already a third into it. Why the CIA Killed JFK and Malcolm X: The Secret Drug Trade in Laos, by John Kerner. So, John Kerner argues that the CIA's secret drug trade in Laos and the president's effort to end it provided the primary motive that the CIA needed to assassinate the president. A lot of effort has been made to examine the president's Vietnam policy, but precious little attention has been paid to the opium trade in Laos that was making the CIA wealthy and powerful beyond its wildest dreams. This book chronicles the president's secret war with the CIA over Laos, a high stakes game that cost him his life. Well, that's a bold claim, Mr. Kerner. And let's see, I've got I don't know, another 100 pages to go. Not even that many. So far, I am still not convinced that he's got the case here, but, I'm still reading the book. And One of the things that's got me really interested now is Symington, Stewart Symington. Okay, he was a senator from Missouri, um, apparently a friend of, or at least a colleague of Harry Truman from Missouri, both Democrats. And we find him opposing the Vietnam War. But did he also oppose the Laos conflict? I mean, he's a Democrat, okay? And the people that are behind the apparent uh, CIA drug connection are generally Republicans. So is that a significant difference? Is he really going to try to expose what's going on in Laos? That's interesting to me. And what's even more interesting to me, and I've been working on this morning, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, was formed in 1961. Okay, so right in the beginning of President Kennedy's term of office. Why? Well, why was it formed? Well, it turns out that it was Senator Symington's idea. And so he got in touch with J. Edgar Hoover and said, I want you to help set up an Air Force investigative unit, AFOSI, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. And that was in the early 50s, and the person chosen to lead that was Joseph F. Carroll, a former high-ranking and intimate associate of J. Edgar Hoover, special agent with the FBI. So Symington and Carroll are with the DIA and Hoover. But wait a minute, Hoover's supposed to be against Symington, right? So it's getting a little confusing. Is Symington now becoming an anti Golden Triangle opium lord? Uh, is he now fighting against, along with President Kennedy? Because then I can open the door to the idea that the reason that my dad was recruited to SACSA was to help fight against the CIA's drug business in Laos. And I can't say that's the case yet, but that is where this research is heading, and it's heading there fast. Yeah, hey, David points out Symington and Forrestal were also rivals. Yes, that's again. But when Symington apparently is involved in the death of Forrestal, perhaps setting him up with some LSD or something like that, or at least knowing that Forrestal's getting set up to be suicided. It's a dark picture of a Stuart Symington allowing that to happen. And so one thinks, well, he's on the bad side. Nevertheless, it looks like he was part of setting up the DIA. And when you look into my dad's resume as to who were his recommendations to get the job at SACSA, two of the three officers that he used as his references were with the DIA. So are we now uncovering another aspect of McDuff's story in which, long before the TDY incident, in which he apparently sent the TDY mission into Laos to try to catch the same thing, the CIA dealing drugs with the Vang Pao, um, army. Was he also involved in trying to catch them as early as 1962 and perhaps even before that when he was with the FBI? Different fissures. I'm always looking for fissures in the deep state. Is Symington actually on a different side from Allen Dulles? Well, yeah, he's a Democrat. Dulles a Republican. Yeah. So there's another seam that needs to really be looked into. All right, let me take a look through the chat here and see what you guys are thinking about. Mike Hammer, them trolls. Yeah, that's Mr. Hammer, all right. Okay, secret agent on the two sides of war on Rumble. Well, Miss Hunton, I tried that. All right. David Raskin's dad's career is fascinating. He absolutely is. You know, the guy was a communist. He said he was a communist. But what they didn't really want us to know about was that there were good communists. There were nationalist communists. Not everybody believed in, the Lenin international view of communism, where everybody would rise up like French revolutionaries and take everything down, you know. Ordo ab chao, order from chaos. Nope, don't want that. But yeah, and Raskin is very influential and very, very popular. Oh my God, he's like this darling of the liberals. Symington's family founded Gibson Island, later joins board of BCCI. Jack Northrop says he threatened him at Air Force. Nice. Yeah, this Gibson Island, that's one of the first things that we recognized was that Symington's family was the primary investor. And again, were they on the same side up until the Vietnam War or up until, Symington learned about the drug dealing? And then suddenly they were on different sides? Because the BCCI, I mean, that is Republicans. But it's also, isn't it, John Kerry and Democrats. So again, I have to I have to study this. It's not something I can give you a firm opinion on who is on what side. Who's on first? Who knows? Huh. Where'd you hear that? No, my father definitely did not speak fluent Chinese. My grandfather, his dad was a man very popular in the Chinese community in Hartford, Connecticut. Grandpa, having been a high school teacher, an English teacher, and principal, donated his time to teaching English to immigrants, and the ones that he worked with the most were Chinese. So he had quite a reputation in the Chinese community in Connecticut. But there came a time when some Chinese businessmen tried to get in touch with my dad to try to get some favors, and that's an incident that I put in the book about the electric train set that I never got. It was a interesting incident, but that's no, my father was not a Chinese speaker. Let's see. Marcus Raskin was Boston 5. Let's see. Joe Kelly, how are you? It's a good Irish name. At the time of the Con, I guess that's the Constitutional Convention, 1787, the Nationalists in Massachusetts were challenged by the Republicans in what became known as Shays' Rebellion. Yes, Marty says William P. Barr, BCCI. Yeah, and again, there's where the uniparty surfaces, right? William P. Barr, obviously a descendant at some point from uh, Eastern European Jewish ancestry, laundered through London, and suddenly becomes a Catholic, a devout Catholic. I don't know. It's also obscure to us. They treat us like we're ignorant. We're not going to see these connections. That's their downfall. They do not. They underestimate us constantly. That's the whole basis of their philosophy is that common people like us are only driven by two forces: pleasure and pain, right? Pleasure and pain. So if they don't like what you're doing, they give you pain or they offer you some pleasure to do something different. Don't study history, smoke dope. You know, don't study history. You know, get involved in video games. Don't read, play computer games. Yeah, they don't want us to examine these questions. But my questions are real. Was the CIA's drug trade in Laos and also Burma so um, so profitable that they were willing to lie about it to everyone and use American soldiers to protect the drug routes? Well, they did it in Central America. Yeah, we should talk about Shays' Rebellion sometime. It's not completely clear in my mind anymore, but it's like the whiskey rebellion, um, and I'm not sure which happened first, but the central government asserts itself and says, no, you can't, um, you can't disobey the federal government, at least in certain areas. But again, my mind hasn't been on Shays' Rebellion in years, so I'll have to pass on that one. Good point, though. Tyrone Sargent with an upside down flag. Yeah, hedonism. Yeah, hedonism is awfully attractive when you don't when you if you give up on trying to sort things out, then why not just go in full both feet jump in with both feet to a life of hedonism. All right. Well, Joe, it's nice to have you here. I'm again, I can't really debate the Shays Rebellion with you right now, but I'm interested in your opinion. Beauty is an act of civil disobedience. Okay. Epicurean delight is balanced. And good morning, Mark. Thanks for joining us here. And thanks for your hard work. I know what it's like to have two strikes on your main channel. When you have two strikes on your main channel, then there's just nothing you can do about it except for avoid the channel for a while, because one more strike, it's not do you get banned, you lose the entire channel. So all the work you've done will just disappear, like my 903 videos that they took down with my main first channel that I built over a couple of years. And so now we have the three channels, but each of the other channels has a strike on it right now. So we're just going with McDuff Lives One on YouTube. I keep talking about opening up a Rumble channel. I haven't done it yet. I'm working on so many different things that my progress on getting the website started has kind of stalled, and I'm sorry for that. On the positive side, I did get um, a two-part summary of my interview, and Mark, you'll be interested in this, with Ed Haslam. The interview was done in a number of small clips, and although I had posted them before, I'd never put them together. So now they're put together with drummer's help into two short movies, about 40 minutes each, and that will cover the interview I did with Ed back in 2019 in December. Interesting, it was December 2019, and we did not know about COVID yet. It was that following January where everything SHTF for us and for the world. So anyway, Mark, and I will introduce you to Ed if you want me to. Just send me an email and I'll hook you up with Ed Haslam. I know you had a number of questions for him, and when I saw him, I did not have the chance to really get into in depth, but so much of of his work is in the book that rather than trying to gather it from an interview, just first of all, obviously read the book, and also Me and Lee by Judith Barry Baker. Although a great bit of it is the romance part, that she had a romance with Lee Oswald. That part doesn't interest me so much as what she talks about when she talks about moving um, a a Ziploc bag full of weaponized uh, serum of some kind and doing these experiments, etc. Her story is, as Ed says, it's very important. It's unfortunate that she has become a divisive figure over many decades, and some people don't believe that this is the same woman who is now, writing the book and going to talks and attending the JFK conferences. But Ed thinks it is the same woman, and he's behind her story. So that means a lot to me because I think Ed is a very serious man who did a great job on this book. Again, if you haven't read it, get a copy of Dr. Mary's Monkey: How the Unsolved Murder of a Doctor, a Secret Laboratory in New Orleans, and Cancer-Causing Monkey Viruses are linked to Lee Harvey Oswald, the JFK assassination, and emerging global epidemics. Almost sounds like the title of Dr. Horowitz's book, doesn't it? Emerging viruses. It's encouraging because it tells you the truth is there. You can find it below the surface. You have to dig for it, and people have dug for it and found it. And we can keep doing that. I feel like I've had a very successful week, making as much progress as I have on the issue of Laos and the drug trade, and also digging into the question of hepatitis B and how and why that became a disease, and how and why they developed a vaccine. And I'm right on the cusp of investigating as deeply as I can whether my dad became the source for blood contaminated with Hep B for them to do their continued attenuation in order to develop a vaccine. And frankly, I think they did. I mean, it's kind of a major announcement if I actually come out and say that. I feel like I'm coming out of a closet here. Sometimes I know Mark sometimes feels that way at his channel, that you got something that you want to say, but you're not sure it's time yet. Okay, Corky. Well, I won't argue with that. Yeah. Hedonism can be healthy, says Corky. Oh, hey, Tony. Thank you very much. On the road enjoying the book. Oh, wow, Kevin. So sorry. So sorry. We have to work on this. We have to solve it. Both of my parents died of cancer. And, you know, there wasn't so much cancer, 200 years ago, was there? It has to be related to human activity. And then, of course, you dig into things like NSSM 200, where they create these killer seeds, the Terminator seeds, and manipulate the seeds in order to achieve a sterility on behalf of the humans that eat the corn. Um, William Engdahl's book on that is really important, called Seeds of Destruction. Again, the story of, sorry, oops, hmm, sorry, there's a phone call. Well, Kevin, I'm very sorry and angry too. Anger, I think, can be useful to catalyze action. Just make sure the action isn't still hot-headed, flailing around, but actually organized and specific attacks on the lies, the enemy. Yeah, I don't believe it's natural at all. I just don't. Thoughts on the selection of the Speaker of the House? Well, it's kind of funny, isn't it? But it's also interesting. And I got to say, I am proud of the 20 House Republicans that are standing up against the deep state. I think that's what they're doing. I believe it. If a person like Matt Getz, he gets an awful lot of flack, an awful lot of criticism, and they go after him because of his sexual orientation. as if, because he's a Republican, they can do that. Um, and so many of these voices are always under attack, scurrilous attacks, just throwing uh, words around along with their name that eventually convince people not to pay attention to them, not to listen to them, and that uh, what do you call it, gaslighting or whatever you want to call it. It's an intentional campaign to quash any voices that don't go along with the narrative. Hello, David Paulson. How are you? Herbicides kill cells with a cell wall and a cell membrane. We only have a cell membrane. Lots of cancer in farmers that no till. Mhm. Yeah, I worry about the farmers, and of course, the farmers are getting fewer and fewer just because their land's getting bought up. And but the idea of using uh, glyphosate herbicide, the poison, to kill everything except for the crop that you're growing is insane. When I think about it, it kind of resonates with what I said at the top of the show, where they could be using these means to kill everything except for the things that they want to live, and that they will give you an antidote, kind of like the GMO corn. If they don't want you to survive, then they'll feed you GMO corn. If they want you to survive as a people, as the human race to survive, well, they only want the ones that they approve of, just like they only want a certain, cheap, low grade food that eventually kills people. I can't believe we're sitting here talking about this. We're talking about this crazy medical policy, the crazy food policy, the disaster of the environment, and then this whole hoax about climate and global warming and all that. We are just inundated with BS. At the same time, they really are trying to kill us, I think. Okay, let's put Trump in the speakership. Give him the big hammer. Oh, that's never going to happen. But it does kind of help help break the ice, break the tension a little bit. It's an interesting image, Nancy Pelosi with her, that big long piece of jewelry she wears with a kind of a mace, I think, with I don't know, an eagle and a globe or something on it. It looks like, the symbol of power in the world. I wonder if she's going to give that to Donald. Here, Donald, you can have this great piece of jewelry that I made. All right, Corky, you're going to have to get back on the show and explain about nuclear fission and how to make free energy, or at least cheaper energy. And I look forward to it. I really want to learn this stuff, but I don't want to have to read a whole lot of books. Uh, when I was in college, I tried to be a physics major for a while, and I just don't have the brains for it. And I'm glad that people do, but I'm not one of them. Hey, Boyd. Hey, John, that's what my grandmother told me. A hoe was made to chop the damn weeds out of the garden. Don't be lazy. Oh, my. We're covered with weeds, though, aren't we? Yeah, they kill oats in Canada with Roundup so they can be harvested before it freezes. Okay. Hose and weed. Yeah. We are now going to have the great privilege as of July the 1st in the state of Maryland of growing your own weed. You can have two plants, only two, you know? So, but that's going to be interesting. I wonder what's going to happen to the prices, because we have medical marijuana here in Maryland, and I wonder, when they legalize it for you can grow two plants, it's also legal to buy it for recreational purposes. And that will, I think, expand the market tremendously. Right now, it's a fairly strong market just for the medical people, but uh, recreational people, I imagine, is going to be quite a lot. It's going to be interesting to see how things change. And oh, I don't know. People worry about kids getting exposed to these poisoned uh, weed, poisoned joints, stuff with exotic chemicals in them that mess with your brain and turn you into a psychopath. And of course, we've heard those rumors all my life. Why do you think they call it dope? They used to call us that because it makes you dopey. Of course, you don't want to be a dope, do you? No, I don't want to be a dope, so don't do dope. Okay, but the the reality is, so many people find um, the weed to be beneficial to themselves, and why in the world, other than just scared, just fear, have we had this prohibition? Well, we explored that with Doug Valentine's book, The Strengths of the Wolf, and learned how the narcotics police, Harry Anslinger and that crowd, were working with the OSS officially and then the CIA to kind of cover up or even legitimize the trade in heroin while busting pot dealers to get the headlines and to justify their salaries. And that's why weed was made illegal to cover up the dope trade, the real dope. I don't weed is not dope; it's an herb. We used to say, but you know, it's heroin now. That's dope. Okay, Corky says this legal weed thing is a total mismanagement. Now the price is falling, supply is huge. Oops. Cool. Anyway, we spend far too much time talking about policy with regard to marijuana. What we really should be doing is talking about fentanyl and how destructive it is and how we can stop that, and why don't our uh, government institutions take it seriously? Police the borders, for instance. They don't. They don't look. They don't care. They just, again, our country is under attack in many, many dimensions. And this heroin fentanyl attack is real. And it's not going to go away by telling anecdotes about poisoned marijuana plants. Hey, Brightmore. The Z-Man targeting Russian Orthodox Church and Ukrainian Orthodox Church too. This is, I think Putin might be onto something here when he's declared a ceasefire for the Russian Orthodox Christmas, which is today and or tomorrow due to time zone issues. But happy Christmas to all who share in the Orthodox version of Christianity. And I hope it's peaceful. And I hope it leads to a more permanent peace. Yes, Pax Vobiscum, they say in church. Peace be with you. Peace be with us all. Miss Hunt clarifies Orthodox Christmas 7th of January. Okay, so tomorrow. So it's Christmas Eve, a holy time. And, what's the importance of one day or 2 days if we can achieve the state of mind of Dona Nobis Pacem? Give us peace. Grant us peace. Hi, Jason. Were the ghettos set up by rentier class with vice as a bonus? Yes, I think so. I think you've got a very good idea there. Probably so. And look at what's happening. You remind me of a comment I wanted to make and I haven't made it before. But if you look at, say, all of these videos of San Francisco where they show, all the homeless people with their tarps and everything, and the drugged out zones and people wandering around with blankets and just horrific scenes of America. And generally, it's the Republicans posting these memes saying, see what the Democrats have done, see what they did. They've ruined America by allowing drugs and homelessness and all this stuff. And I think they missed the point, maybe even intentionally, because what's really going on is to destroy the property values, right? This is Catherine Austin Fitz's idea, and I'm with her on this, that they will create disaster zones, just to get rid of the Korean market on the corner. They'll start up a drug dealer on the other corner and create uh, tragedies, shootings, robberies. People will lose faith in the community, will stop shopping there, property values will go down, and then one day, when they finally got it as low as they need it, then they come in and buy it all up, and the next thing you know, it's been redeveloped into some glorious, shiny, yuppie-friendly neighborhoods where you can raise your kids and have have babysitters and childcare and nice little corner restaurants. Have everything you want, because we're going to take this cheap property and we're going to build condos and a nice little walking shopping area. It'll be so attractive. But it's not just because the people get the dope, it's because it's concentrated in a way so as to depress the property value so that the people that are really running things can scarf it up at a low price. Don't you think? Hi, Miss Hunt. Well, you and I have that in common. I also went to Christiania. And John, I toured Christiania in Denmark with the president of Volvo. Wow. I was poor, but not like what I saw there. They had their own currency. I was there in what, I guess 2019 2015 or 16. Yeah, it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago when I was at in Copenhagen and went to Christiania, and I thought it was wonderful, but it was really kind of in decay at the same time. It was no longer the uh, iconic, free, hippie-driven, you know, uh, peace, love, and happiness place. Although a lot of it was still there. There's really nice um, restaurants and live music. Um, Obviously, uh, the booths there where um, you could buy marijuana or hashish there, and it was openly consumed, and people were all relaxed and happy and just you know enjoying life. They had a horrible problem, however, with cocaine and people that were injecting uh, hard drugs. But somehow they got organized and got rid of them all. And I say bravo to them, because it is a different culture. The idea of just being friendly to things like weed and hashish, but not being friendly to hard drugs. That I think makes a lot of sense to me. But you know, it doesn't make money. The money is in the hard drugs. The British Empire, the Dutch East India Company, all of these American dope importers, they know where the money comes from. It comes from addiction. Yeah, I have a couple of pictures of me there. I'll post them sometime. The forest when I visited, you can't stand. Yeah, it is a shame. I guess maybe part of it was just wishful thinking that it was still, that idyllic place. But I enjoyed being there anyway. It was kind of a bucket list thing for me. I finally got it done. That's right, Leslie. I agree with you there. Anglo-Dutch financial oligarchy, and aren't they still busy? You were there in 2010. Okay, I was there in 2015 or 16. Boyd Kit says, wasn't the hippie movement a psyop as well? You know, that's something that Professor Hamamoto and I have talked about. And I think what you have is genuine young people getting seduced into something that ultimately was created and steered and in some ways controlled by darker forces such as the psychiatrists and psychologists of the CIA. um, the Laurel Canyon stories I think are real. Jim Morrison, all of these connections, Joni Mitchell, those connections are real, but that doesn't mean that the art didn't come from their hearts and from their souls. Okay. So I think that they were enabled financially and culturally, an opportunity made for people, like Joni Mitchell. But ultimately, all of this was created to allow them to flourish in a way that would ultimately contribute to the goals of the deep state, i.e., to break down our society, to take away the children's respect for parents, which is a big part of it, and to get good-looking women to go to San Francisco and wear flowers in their hair, especially ones that were runaways or orphans. So a lot of good and a lot of bad both from it. I thought the music often was superb, was incredible, and I still do. Genius is almost too small a word for some of their work. And so, no, I don't think it was all controlled, but I do think that the opportunities to present, excuse me, to present these young musicians' view of life wouldn't have happened without the support of the CIA programs behind it. That's my opinion. Was it a psyop? It is and it's not. It's reality at the same time. Apex of music and film. See, some people say it was the greatest art explosion in our lifetimes, but at the same time, you have to recognize, you know, the convergence of the deep state and the dope dealers. That's what you look at Rolling Stones. Okay, come on, the Rolling Stones, brown sugar. You know what brown sugar was, right? When you dance to the song, you listen to the song, but they're selling dope, and that's disgusting. So, that's where I draw the line. I am disgusted by the idea of pushing opiates on anybody, especially kids. If you're my age, if you're old, who cares? If you want to avoid some pain in your elder years and take some opiates, that's okay with me. I don't care. It's up to you, but don't be addicting kids. That's the most disgusting. Okay, brown sugar is a brown girl. Okay, well, if you say so. Okay. Well, I think we've used up our hour this morning of live chat. It's been a pleasure to talk to you all and get to know some of you a little better. Um, do think of taking a look at our Patreon. It's Patreon/John O'Loughlin, and um, I'll be posting at least once a week a new compilation of past work there that I think is important. And as my wife gets more into production, we can expect even bigger and better things as 2023 develops here at McDuff Lives. Thanks very much, everyone. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.